Good evening, everyone. This is your other Team 9 meteorologist, Nate the Chat, joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And coming up for this edition of Nate at 8, we're going to be talking a lot about rain and cool temperatures. That's our future for a lot of this stretch as we go through the weekend, especially though the next couple of days, rain and cool temperatures will be a big highlight of the weather that we're going to see before we'll start to trend drier, but no warmer as we go into that extended holiday weekend and even into Memorial Day. Not looking much warmer. Warm up will follow eventually next week, but likely not in time for Memorial Day. So for this edition of Nate at 8, again, coming up for tonight, showers. We're going to be tracking some rain as we go through the overnight hours, and then some more showers and even some thunderstorms in the mix for your Wednesday. And unfortunately, there is a potential for severe thunderstorms and flooding, especially for the latter part of tomorrow and into tomorrow night. Risk look to fall off at that point going into the weekend, although we're still likely dealing with a lot of showers in place Thursday before even that rain chance will start to lower some. But the prevailing factor will be these temperatures, as again, not going to be warming up much at all here in the near term as we go through the weekend. Our current temperatures now fall in the 50s. Now, we will be fairly stable at this point as we go through the remainder of the night. It's not going to be much cooler, if any, by tomorrow morning. So we will not be dealing with a real chilly start to tomorrow. It's a cool start. Again, similar to what we're dealing with right now is the temperatures that we'll likely be dealing with going into tomorrow morning. It's coming off of highs that were in the mid 60s today. Now, with respect to the mid 60s, I think tomorrow can actually trend warmer, but it's not a big warm up. We're talking likely a couple degrees, maybe a few degrees. It's not really noticeably warmer tomorrow, but we can trend just a little warmer with respect to what we had for today. But again, really, it's not going to feel warmer to us. It's going to pretty much feel on par with what we had for today, likely again tomorrow. Then a further cool down will arrive Thursday and Friday. This is when our high temperatures will be over 15 degrees below normal. Highs are likely holding into the 50s, and then we'll climb back in the 60s this weekend. Yes, a warming trend does start this weekend, and we can get back into the 70s going into Memorial Day. But, it's not a real warm day, right? We likely see temperatures climb further in the 70s, and later next week, right at the end of the month, is when we can see temperatures climb back further in the 70s, where we are getting back to some warm values. But certainly anticipate through this weekend it to be cool and still on the cool side, even to Memorial Day as well. But temperatures will start to pick up likely by starting this weekend, then continuing as we go throughout next week. But here near term through this weekend, this is a cool stretch of weather, and again, unseasonably cool stretch of weather as well. And Chief Meteorologist Jeff Exline did some digging on just how rare it was to deal with those 50s into late May, and check out what he found here. Over the last 10 years of the Wheeling-Ohio County Airport, 2 times, that's been it, below 60 degrees in late May at the airport. So certainly among rare company, both of those occurring 2021, 51 degrees, May 29th, 58, May 30th. So to get temperatures below 60 late May is certainly not common for our area, but that is what we're likely going to see set up here later on this week. Again, Thursday and Friday are real cool days, and then temperatures start to pick up at least some this weekend, but I wouldn't say it's warm as we go through Memorial Day weekend. I think later next week it could be warm, but here near term, it is just going to be a unseasonably cool stretch of weather that we have looking ahead. And that's obviously big talking point of what we're going to see as we go into this weekend. Another big topic here, of course, is this rain as well. Austin joining us on YouTube this evening saying good evening to you. Windy with a bit of cold air, a little chill to the air, I think, Austin, saying certainly you might have noticed that a little chill to the air. We're going to have any strong winds during our upcoming rainy days, so we'll touch on that as well in terms of the potential for some gusty winds. But a good evening there, Austin. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, especially Saturday. It sure did. Hope you did as well. And just mentioning that wind, that chill to the air with those cool temperatures. Where's the sun? Shelly's asking. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to see too much of it here near term, unfortunately, but we're going to be looking forward to that next day where we'll spot more sunshine in place, and we'll dive into that in your 9+1 day forecast. But unfortunately here near term, with this wet cool stretch of weather, there's quite a bit of cloud cover in the forecast as well. So there's this initial round of rain that moved in this evening. We did have some dry air in place that kept us dry, at least going through this afternoon. So some of this lighter rain out ahead of this more steady rain, some of these showers moving in out ahead of it for this afternoon. A lot of it failed failed to ever reach the ground. That story changed then as we went throughout this evening. That layer of dry air moistened, and we saw some rain break out across the region. Now, you'll notice it's not a steady rain tonight. There's already some, there's a drier period looking back towards that I-77 corridor already returning, and we will get back into a drier stretch here as we do look ahead here early on tonight. But again, we will be dealing with some of these showers just periodically likely as we do look ahead. If we broaden our view here, you can see looking back into central Ohio, still looking dry, but then we broaden our view more, and there's that next batch of some showers and thunderstorms looking back into portions there, Indiana and Illinois. Now, yes, there's some severe weather looking further towards our west, but those storms are anticipated to weaken by the time they reach us, so we'll deal with that following round of some showers. And a thunderstorm is possible overnight, but again, we're not anticipating any severe weather overnight, and we're going to see, as even though we're drying back up here near term early on tonight, we'll see more showers and a thunderstorm redevelop later on tonight. So it's occasional that we'll deal with some rain going into tomorrow morning, but again, thankfully that severe risk looks to remain low for us here as we go through the overnight hours. So there's our temperatures, again, remaining fairly steady. Notice that next batch of some rain developing as we get into the latter part of tonight and get some heavier pockets of heavier rain possible going into tomorrow morning. And rumble thunder possible, but not anticipating any severe weather concerns. And as we get later into the morning and midday, this is when we can get into a drier period of weather going into the midday hours on Wednesday, only to have more showers and thunderstorms redeveloping for the afternoon as well as the evening hours. And while the risk for thunderstorms likely starts to subside for Wednesday night to Thursday morning, as you can see, that rain is still there. In fact, it can be even more persistent, that rain tomorrow night, with respect to what we're dealing with tonight. So we can start to ditch the shower activity and get more of a steady rain. I think that rain can be much more persistent tomorrow night into Thursday morning. While tonight, it's still more of a shower activity. It's more periodic. And I think that's the same story tomorrow. It's more periodic, more of a shower activity. But by tomorrow night into Thursday morning, we can get into more of a period of steady rain, a rumble of thunder, but not anticipating a severe risk then by tomorrow night going into Thursday morning. And then I think the impacts overall are going to start to fall off then Thursday morning. We're likely not dealing with, thankfully, anything impactful then going throughout the day Thursday, but I still think there's some occasional showers to deal with. Maybe still a rumble of thunder in the mix, but I think even that risk will start to fall off throughout the day Thursday. But again, still likely quite a bit of showers to deal with on Thursday. It's just that anything impactful will likely, thankfully, start to taper off. So in terms of any flooding concerns or severe weather concerns, that looks to lower going throughout the day Thursday. But yes, here near term, we will have to watch. That potential is there for severe weather, and the potential is there for flooding. Now, our severe weather risk would fall tomorrow afternoon and evening. So that's our one-time period to watch here as we go over the next couple of days. This is our one-time period to watch for the potential for severe weather. Now, this is a fairly conditional setup, meaning that we want the dry conditions late morning, midday. So we want dry conditions leading up to the afternoon, and we're going to want some sunshine as well. So we want to muster at least some sunshine leading up to this time period. Now, due to the fact that I think we're seeing a lot of cloud cover and we're dealing with some rain even in the morning, I think this overall is keeping that risk more isolated or lower, just like what the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma has issued for our area, the severe weather outlook, that we're in the low category, the threat more isolated, but the potential is there, right? It's just more conditional. So we're going to want to see at least some sunshine. We're going to want dry conditions. If we can get both of those, then yes, the potential is there for some severe weather going into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Now, the unfortunate side of this is that if we do happen to see a severe thunderstorm develop, then the potential is there for high winds, large hail, and yes, even a tornado. Can't be ruled out. So if we do happen to see some severe thunderstorms develop later on tomorrow, all threats are on the table with any severe thunderstorms we see develop. So yes, is the risk high? No. Is it fairly conditional? Do we need just the right conditions to see this set up in the afternoon? Yes, but the potential is there. So we still want to keep this. We want to take it lightly. We want to keep monitor those conditions throughout the morning. And if conditions are looking likely for severe weather, you may very well see a watch issued for tomorrow afternoon. Again, remember, when we see a severe thunderstorm watch, that just means that those conditions are setting up to where those severe thunderstorms are possible. That's our time period to start to plan, right? When you see a watch issued, you should be thinking, well, where's my safe place? Where am I going to go? And if a warning were to be issued, it's not a good time to stray too far from your home, right? If a watch is issued, you don't want to be outdoors or caught outdoors to where you can't seek shelter fairly quickly. So just some things to keep in mind. The warning, if a warning is issued, that's when the threat is very imminent or ongoing. So if you see a warning, that's when you need to seek shelter. A severe thunderstorm is very imminent or it's ongoing, but a watch is just really issued to get that word out that it's time to plan, prepare, right, in order to seek shelter in the event of a warning being issued. So that's the differences, just in case you see one of those issued tomorrow. Those are the differences between the watch and the warning. And again, we'll be watching for the potential going into the latter part of tomorrow. And again, once we get past that time period, then the severe weather risk will likely fall off as we go into the weekend, as this is likely our one-time period with potential for severe weather. Now, on top of that, I think the overall higher risk for us may very well be the potential for some flash flooding. In fact, we have excessive rainfall risk even present tonight into tomorrow morning. The threat would stay isolated, but we will have to watch some rounds of heavier rain later tonight with, again, some pockets of heavier rain, maybe a rumble of thunder. While the severe risk doesn't look present, still we could deal with some pockets of heavier rain, and the potential for some flash flooding is there. Again, what we do see would be more isolated tonight, tomorrow morning. Now, where the risk can start to increase a bit is tomorrow, especially tomorrow afternoon and evening with those thunderstorms in the mix. Even if they don't become severe, they're still likely producing some heavy downpours, and you'll see that area highlighted in the yellow. That's where we could deal with not only isolated, but we could start to deal with more scattered instances of flash flooding. So, instead of dealing with a report or two of flooding, we're dealing with several reports, right? And we don't want to take this lightly. I think that potential for some flash flooding is a little greater than the potential for dealing with severe weather tomorrow afternoon and evening. Now, the area of greatest concern is likely just east of us. I think, into central, especially more western PA, that's where that greatest concern for flash flooding will likely set up as we go through tomorrow afternoon and evening. But nonetheless, that certainly doesn't mean our risk is zero, and we're still going to be keeping a close eye on this for our area as well. And again, this does extend, even the risk for flash flooding extends into tomorrow night as well, but the emphasis will be tomorrow afternoon and evening. By Thursday morning, then, is when the risk will fall off, and we're going to start to see anything impactful come to an end, but showers do continue throughout the day Thursday. So futurecast rainfall, how much could we pick up, right? Well, we could pick up quite a bit of rain. I think it could vary, though, across the area where, some of us could see only about a half of an inch, while some of us can see about an inch and a half or maybe more. It can vary quite a bit across the area when we're dealing with some thunderstorms in the mix, right? We're dealing with those locally heavy downpours. These amounts can vary quite a bit over the period of not only tonight, but as we do extend in through tomorrow as well. You notice where Futurecast is picking up on some of the higher totals as we look further towards our east. There's greater potential for some, excessive amounts of rain where it could start to exceed even a couple inches. The better the odds likely further to the east for that to occur, which is why we've seen so far the flood watch has been issued is to our east. It does not cover us here and Eastern Ohio, the Northern Panhandle. The flood watch, though, does extend towards Pittsburgh, nearing Johnstown, and then including Morgantown as well. So it's highlighted just east of us. That flood watch is in effect. This is extending from late tonight going through Thursday morning is when this is in effect. So this is the area to watch where likely the greatest potential for flash flooding will occur during this stretch as we look further towards our east. But, the threat it's not zero for us. And I think that overall that threat for flooding could be a bit greater. It's just likely that for us, it does stay more localized, right? We're not anticipating widespread flooding across our area, but some localized flooding is possible as we do extend from late tonight going through tomorrow night. That's the time period to watch. The emphasis, though, certainly will be tomorrow afternoon and evening as the greatest concern of a window of time where we're dealing with some of those downpours within those thunderstorms. And that does then coincide to be, yes, when we have the potential for a severe thunderstorm as well, even though that is fairly conditional, right? I think there's a lot of cloud cover tomorrow that can really hinder those severe thunderstorms developing. But if we can get some sun, it's certainly something to watch out for. If we can get some sun going and our temperatures, if we get some sun breaking out, we could even reach in the 70s tomorrow. Just likely a lot of cloud cover. I think it's going to be a tough task to get. But it's something, of course, you could test at home, right? I mean, all of us look look up and see if the sun's out, right? Or if we're dealing with a lot of cloud cover. That's always a good indication as what will follow later on into the day. If we're seeing a lot of sunshine, sun out, storms out, right? The more sunshine, the greater the potential to deal with some thunderstorms, and even, in this case, the possibility for some severe thunderstorms as well to follow later on to the day tomorrow. And again, Thursday impacts will fall off, but showers continue. And then the rain chance does drop off altogether going into the weekend. We can deal with a few lingering showers Friday. It starts to become more hit or miss likely at that point. And then we'll watch. The chance of showers is there Sunday. Not really a good grasp on that quite yet, but there is a potential for some rain. We'll see if, in terms of as we get closer to the weekend, start to narrow down better timing and the chances of that precipitation for the weekend. And yes, even a shower possible in early next week as well. And notice how I mentioned that temperatures will climb up a bit going into Memorial Day, but I still wouldn't say it's a real warm day early next week. Later next week then is when I'd say the warmer days will return as we do extend later into next week. Next Friday, then temperatures climb in the mid 70s. Austin mentioning, actually, let's get to Lola. She said, good evening. Cold, wet week indeed. I hope Memorial Day stays dry. Yeah, rain chances do look lower for this weekend into early next week. I do think there can be a period of rain for the holiday weekend, but we're still some uncertainty in the models of pinpointing the timing of it. Something to stay tuned for the next couple of days. We'll start to likely gain better confidence on it. But I do think there can be at least a round of rain for the weekend. But overall, with respect to the next couple of days, certainly looks drier during that extended holiday weekend. We may just have to dodge some, at least a round of rain in the mix there over that 3-day stretch, but certainly doesn't look like a washout by any means. I still think there's plenty of dry times to be had over that 3-day stretch to, get out and maybe do some grilling. Obviously not real pool weather, but at least you can still get out and enjoy the outdoors some, even though it will be fairly cool during that stretch. Austin mentioning a hurricane season is starting to ramp up here for our summer months. Absolutely. Curious to how often do we get the after effects of a hurricane? We deal, of course, with a lot of the rain from the remnants of hurricanes. Is what we're watching for. That, dealing with some, flooding concerns with the amount of rain from the remnants of hurricanes, and the obviously dealing with some gusty winds we can still have from these. How often do we get the after effects? Well, we get them every year, at least the remnants. I mean, the remnants of hurricane we get pretty much every year in terms of dealing with some rain from the remnants of a hurricane. I'd have to do some specific digging on those statistics, but I think it's pretty much every year I can recall that we're dealing with, at least some effect from the remnants of a hurricane, dealing with some rain and, times some gusty winds is what we're primarily dealing with that. As even though obviously it's weakening to the point where no longer a hurricane, there's still a lot of moisture with that that causes flooding concerns for us at times here in the Ohio Valley. And then in addition to that, you can still just get some gusty winds in general. Even though it's not hurricane force winds, you still get some gusty winds in general that can cause some wind damage as well. That's what we typically see there from the remnants of a hurricane. Dave saying flooding with an inch or so of rain. Come on, man. Well, Dave, that's called a weather. There's a model. So what you're seeing there with that weather model is just a generic the model trying to depict exactly how much rain will occur. Keep in mind whenever you see that model output of rainfall amounts, it's trying to depict in general what most locations can see, but what it fails to really pick up on is those locally higher amounts. Those locally higher amounts due to some the effects of some rounds of heavy rain with thunderstorms. So a lot of these model outputs, they can try their best to try to depict where some of those higher amounts can occur. Oftentimes they fail in that, and certainly fail in terms of how much rain as well that some locations can get. Now, it can give a good guideline to general amounts on a widespread scale, which we tried to kind of highlight, that anywhere from some locations can only pick up where it's about a half inch. Some locations get up to about 1.5 inches on a widespread scale, but there certainly will be some locally higher amounts, especially east of us where that flood watch is in effect, to where, locations can pick up more than a couple inches of rain. And of course, keep in mind that can occur over a short period of time. And that's where flooding concerns come into play. So these models have their limitations. That's the model output looking at what we can get for the future cast in terms of the rainfall, Dave, but that's not set in stone of the actual forecast of rainfall amount over every given location. This is kind of a guideline for us to look at, and really, showing that the model's hinting at those higher amounts east of us, where there's a greater flooding concern, and overall hinting at the general widespread rainfall amounts that we mentioned, but certainly not going to take it and set in stone as to some of those locally higher amounts that are likely going to be greater than what we were seeing. So, models certainly have their limitations still, and that's going to be it. So, yes, keep in mind the flooding's not widespread like we said, Dave. So, some locations obviously that are getting an inch or so of rain, or a half inch of rain, likely not dealing with the flooding concern. But that's why we said, it's not widespread. It's going to be, more localized with those heavier rainfall amounts that the models still struggle to pick up on. So, but it's certainly going to be still watching for that potential here. Again, that potential starts even late tonight, going through early Thursday morning, and that coincides with the flood watch, the same time period that goes into effect for areas east of us, where there's overall greater concerns for flooding. And again, the other time period to watch tomorrow afternoon and evening would be the time period to watch for the potential for severe weather. So that's what we're going to be watching for here next couple of days. Again, by Thursday morning, those impacts then will fall off, but we do see showers continue throughout the day, and even a few showers possible into Friday. And then we'll finally likely see at least some drier weather, not completely dry, but at least some drier weather likely in place then as we go through the Memorial Day weekend. Joe, good evening to you. Thanks so much for tuning in there, Joe. Hopefully you had a good day. Hopefully everyone had a good day that's tuning in. Hopefully you had a great weekend as well. And looking ahead for this week, yes, it's quite cool. But, maybe the silver lining is the grass won't grow as much. I know it's still going to grow. It grows so fast this time of the year. It's going to be hard to keep up with these rounds of rain. But hopefully to get some of these chilly nights, hopefully it could slow that grass down at least a little bit. But I know this time of the year it's hard to keep up with, especially with this wet pattern in place. It's going to be hard to get any yard work done over the next couple of days. We're likely going to have to wait until at least Friday, if not going into the weekend, before there's another good chance there to get some yard work done. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. You can catch me coming up News 9 to 10 on Fox 9 News 9 tonight at 11 for the latest. And of course, as always, you can catch me coming up with that next edition of 8 at 8 coming up tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. We'll bring you the latest on where we stand with any severe weather risk and any flooding concerns as we do look ahead going into the day on Thursday. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you all in the next edition of 8 at 8.